airBaltic CEO Martin Gauss is out. The firing came after a shareholders' meeting at which Latvia's Transport Ministry called for a vote of no confidence in the airline executive. Due to how shareholders voted, the supervisory board decided to dismiss the current chairman of the board, Martin Gauss, as of April 7th. Latvia's transport minister stated, "It is important for me to see results. airBaltic is an important company for the country and it must be able to develop independently and adapt to external circumstances." At the same time, however, LSM points out that official messaging did not specify precisely what action, or lack of it, taken by Gauss was the reason for the vote of no confidence in the first place. The vote did come after the airline's financial performance for 2024 was confirmed. Despite bringing in more annual revenue than ever, the carrier posted a net loss of €118 million, primarily due to external factors including accelerated depreciation on Pratt & Whitney engines, which amounted to €73 million. The dismissal was a shock to many, including some of us here at Simple Flying. At least from a public relations standpoint, Gauss regularly made himself available for interviews with our team members, something that was much appreciated. But it's not just being available for interviews with Simple Flying. Even Ben Schlappig of 1 Mile at a Time has been left wondering why exactly airBaltic is firing a brilliant leader, saying in his own article, "If you ask me, he has done a commendable job leading the airline through a challenging time," adding, "I can't think of many niche airline CEOs that I think more highly of than Gauss." 1 Mile at a Time also notes that Gauss has continued to be a type-rated pilot while leading airBaltic. When the airline was operating 737s, he was rated on that type. Ever since the airline transitioned to the A220, he's been rated on that. While that's not something shareholders may care about, it certainly earns credibility among aviation enthusiasts. It would seem that those who voted Gauss out wanted to see better financial results, which is an understandable explanation coming from stakeholders. However, in a wider context of the 2020 pandemic, regional conflict and airspace closures in 2022, and ongoing engine issues, it's arguable that the airline could be doing much worse. With all of that being said, Gauss was responsible for many changes during his decade and a half at airBaltic, and we thought we would list a handful of these. One of the most recent is introducing onboard connectivity on the airline's A220s. Indeed, airBaltic was the first European airline with Starlink Wi-Fi. Martin Gauss recounted on his LinkedIn page that it took 1,000 days to make the dream of bringing Starlink Wi-Fi to airBaltic a reality. During the decision-making process, Gauss flew to the US to test the product on a private jet, and in December 2022, airBaltic signed a contract committing to fitting all of its aircraft with Starlink Wi-Fi. After overcoming various regulatory hurdles, the first Starlink-equipped airBaltic jet took to the skies in February 2025, and all of its planes will have it by the end of the year. The service has been made free for passengers. Another accomplishment is broad network growth, with the airline now having bases beyond the 3 Baltic capitals. While airBaltic is officially the flag carrier airline of Latvia, it essentially plays a similar role for neighbouring Estonia and Lithuania. Because of this, for a long time it had 3 main bases, its main hub at Riga, as well as operations out of Vilnius and Tallinn. But things would change in December 2021, with airBaltic revealing a new base would be established in Tampere, Finland, with opening set for May 2022. 3 years later, airBaltic has remained Tampere's top airline. While Tampere is still relatively close to home, the same cannot be said for airBaltic's other base in Gran Canaria. Located in the Canaries off the northwest coast of Africa, this Spanish island is a popular destination among European tourists, and airBaltic opened a seasonal base there in December 2023. This dynamic approach was typical of the carrier's innovative growth strategy. Gauss also oversaw the airline's transition to being an all A220-300 operator. A quick look at historical fleet data made available by CH Aviation shows that airBaltic has operated a wide variety of aircraft types over the years. These have ranged from turboprops such as the Fokker 50, the Saab 340 and the de Havilland Canada DHC-8, to jetliners including the Avro RJ-70, the Tupolev Tu-134, the Boeing 737 and even the Boeing 757. Under Gauss, airBaltic was a relatively early adopter of the Airbus A220, formerly known as the Bombardier C series. Gauss confirmed in December 2020 that airBaltic would go all in with the A220 when the last of the carrier's Boeing 737s was retired. The final quote-unquote accomplishments that we'll mention is Gauss's leadership through various crises: the pandemic, airspace closures due to conflict, and the Pratt & Whitney engine issue. It's no secret that just about every airline struggled with the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic. Of course, there were many that never made it out of the other side of the global health crisis. For airBaltic, the onset of COVID-19 in March 2020 meant having to temporarily cut around 250 staff from its roster amid declining demand. Shortly afterward, the situation prompted airBaltic to take even more drastic action, with all flights suspended until at least mid-April of that year. Even when operations restarted, they did so with a much leaner fleet of just 5 active aircraft, and the airline's load factor in its first full month of relaunched operations was just 38%. Just as travel demand was rebounding, Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and this prompted sanctions and airspace bans from the EU. Not only was airBaltic unable to serve the Russian market, but access to Belarusian and Ukrainian markets was suddenly shut down as well. Not only was the airline unable to serve cities in these countries, but airBaltic aircraft have also been unable to travel through their airspace. Looking at airBaltic's position on the map, you can see that this has taken a significant toll on operations, with airBaltic jets burning more fuel to fly the long way around. There's not too much more that can be said about the Pratt & Whitney issue. It has burned airBaltic badly with its all A220 fleet. Due to more aircraft on the ground waiting for engine parts, airBaltic has had to wet lease aircraft to maintain its schedule. At the same time, it has likely been more profitable for the airline to wet lease out its A220s to Swiss and Lufthansa, allowing airBaltic to profit from the difference. Amid all of these factors, Gauss has led airBaltic to achieve record annual revenues, something that the airline can be proud of. For all of his achievements, Gauss has also attracted criticism. As Latvian public broadcaster LSM notes, when it comes to local acceptance, he was regularly criticized for a lack of Latvian language skills and the high level of state financial support the company has enjoyed. After all, when you have access to a lot of money, growth isn't too hard to achieve. But airBaltic now has a huge pile of debt and a high interest rate to manage, something that is often not highlighted when announcing financial results. It'll be interesting to see if the Latvian government will be able to find a better CEO than Gauss. While the tendency for many is to see how things could be better, it's also important to realize that someone's work could have prevented things from being far worse. Ultimately, we do wish airBaltic and Mr. Gauss success in the future, wherever the latter may end up in his career. So, what are your thoughts on Gauss's achievements and abrupt dismissal? Let us know by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.